All right, we're live. Hey, everyone, welcome to Victory Condition Gaming. My name is Doug. Joining me tonight is my good buddy Alan Bahr from Nocturnal Media.
Hey.
Alan, welcome again to the channel. We are going to be talking about a project that you have, and by you I mean Nocturnal Media. You have on Kickstarter right now, Paladin, Warriors of Charlemagne, the RPG book, and is doing crazy numbers on Kickstarter. It just seems to knock down every single stretch goal as soon as you announce it, or at least shortly after. Let's talk a little bit about you first. Let's talk for folks that are just tuning in for the first time. Why don't you introduce yourself? Tell folks who you are.
Yeah, so I'm Alan Bahr. I'm the associate producer and senior game designer at Nocturnal Media. I am the one managing and running this Kickstarter. I did not create or write this game, but I am handling it from a logistical standpoint. So
nice. Now, do we want to talk a little bit about Paladin? Why you put it on Kickstarter? Why? Do we want to touch a little bit? I don't know how much you want to get into it, but I think I think that this Kickstarter has touched a lot of people because of a few different reasons, and I'd like to kind of just touch on those briefly. And I don't know how comfortable you are talking about it, but I think it's definitely a great
right there on the Kickstarter page.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about it. Let's talk a little bit about Paladin.
So at the end of June, the owner and CEO founder and my boss at Nocturnal Media, Stuart Week, passed away.
Yeah, very unexpectedly.
Very unexpected. He was only 49, still in the prime of life. And Stuart is, if you know anything about table RPG, Stuart has been around in them since he was in high school, making massive impacts from day one.
He's a legend. He's a legend in the field.
Yeah. And just overall, I mean, if you saw any at the memorials, nobody had a bad thing to say. Stuart's just a great guy all around. Paladin, the game Paladin's based on, King Arthur Pendragon, was a personal favorite of Stuart's.
Nice.
And he really loved it, and he loved Greg, the creator of Pendragon, Greg Stafford. And he loved all the variations on those knightly stories. And so Paladin, which is the adaptation of King Arthur Pendragon, the Arthurian Sword in the Stone mythos, and it's taking that rule set but adapting it to the Frankish stories of Charlemagne and the 12 paladins, was a natural fit for him. And he was very excited about it. It was written by a fan of Pendragon who lives in Europe and is immersed in that. And Stuart had been ramping up for it. It was supposed to launch about a week after he passed. So, as we were sorting out the pieces of what to do with Nocturnal Media and how things were going to proceed, one of the primary questions was, what do we do about Paladin? It was ready to go. The author and everybody was expecting it. So a week ago, we launched. We made the decision, hey, we're going to push through with this. We're going to go forward, and we did. And I think it's a testament to both how many people Stuart touched in the game industry, but also to the subject matter he chose to pursue, that it's been so popular.
Sure. No, there's. I mean, Pendragon is such a huge. You've come on the channel and talked about it. It has, even afterwards, I was getting comments on Twitter and online about how everybody loves that system. So to have a game set in that engine, in that system, and in another era, people were really kind of excited. I'm assuming people are really excited about it. I mean, it's proof because it's doing really well on Kickstarter, and then have it be kind of a tribute to Stuart and everything is just a remarkable thing. And watching it just kind of take off on Kickstarter has been really something to watch.
Yeah, it's been great.
So let's talk a little bit about the Kickstarter itself. What's the Kickstarter entail? entirely. It's got you've got a book. Sorry, I'm trying to bring it up on my.
So, well, first and foremost, Paladin entails the launch, and I don't want to call it a game line because there might be more, there might not. That's kind of, we haven't really got that. We were working with what was written and finished, and finishing that. But it entails the reimagining of Pendragon to a new setting and story type, because the stories of Charlemagne are very different than the stories of King Arthur Pendragon. If you're somebody who studies those myths and legends of Europe, they're very different with very different themes. The characters have different goals. They're not the same. And so, while it's a natural fit in the subject matter in a lot of ways, because it's still knights, it's still chivalry, it's still honor and loyalty, and spirituality. The world in which Paladin has to inhabit, opposite the world of Pendragon, is very different. Pendragon's all on this island of England, right? It takes place in mythic Britain, whereas Paladin ranges from Moorish Spain to northern Germany to Rome to Byzantine Constantinople. It covers a wide breadth of the European continent, right? And so it's got a very different sort of subject matter and feel that you don't get in Pendragon the same way.
Okay.
So the core game is what we're kickstarting. The core game and an adventure book are the two books offered.
Nice. Okay. Right. Okay.
And the core game is complete. You don't need anything else to play. It has all the rules. They've been adapted from Pendragon into this new book, so you don't need a copy of Pendragon. It's standalone.
Nice.
And like the Word document I have for it, because we haven't done layout yet or anything, it's 708 pages.
Oh my god!
So when we slap some full page art in there, some layout, some graphic elements, I don't know what it's going to be.
Word.
I'm not a layout artist. I don't know if it goes up or down, but my assumption is if we start taking up pages with art, it's going to go up.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's probably going to go up a lot.
Yeah, it's a big book.
Yeah.
And it's a great book. It's super comprehensive. It's got everything. And then the other book is a book of adventures that we break down into adventures that take place in the various years of Charlemagne's life and reign.
Okay.
That the players can participate in.
Nice. And a lot of those scenarios, those are stretch goals, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yes. So the core book has 2 big adventures and several smaller scenarios.
Okay.
Sort of set pieces in a sense, right? Not full length adventures. The stretch goals is a collection of other adventures they're longer. They're anywhere from 7 to 20 pages, give or take, per adventure.
Okay.
And there's 8 of them, and we're putting them into a separate book called Paladin Scenarios.
Okay.
And that's an add-on on the Kickstarter.
All right.
So we're super. It's the Kickstarter is a really good deal because we're selling the Paladin core book, the 708 plus whatever behemoth that will stop a bullet or kill your neighbor.
Okay.
We're selling that for $60 plus shipping, and you get the PDF.
Nice.
That's far less than it's going to be in retail.
Yeah.
It's probably going to be pushing $80+ when it's out.
Oh my word.
So this is and so people are like, well, you got this smaller adventure book that's only 150 pages and that's 40. And I'm like, yes, but if you put them together, you're getting almost 1,000 pages of RPG content for $100.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Like, it's a really good deal. But yeah, it is definitely something that is the Kickstarter. After the Kickstarter, it will be different.
Yeah.
It will not be the same price.
Wow. Okay. Sounds like you think of like a 700-page book.
Yeah. And
how big that's going to be.
Well, I've got a 650-page RPG book on my shelf right here. And yeah. It's huge. Exalted 3rd edition is 650+ pages. I don't think it's quite 700. So it's going to be bigger than that by, a chunk.
That's crazy. Now, has any of the art been commissioned at all for this book, or?
Yeah. The artists are working. You can see some of the sample art on the Kickstarter.
Mm-hmm,
The cover is fully done for the core book and for the adventure book. Actually, we showed the cover of that.
Yep, I see that.
Matthew Ryan is doing these massive full-page spreads for us. You can see some of his art on the Kickstarter. One of his pictures of Charlemagne as king.
Oh yes, that's the one that you can see the hand.
Yes.
Someone actually drawing it.
He draws it on canvas and then scans it in and sends us the files.
Wow.
And he does all these by hand, and they're just utterly gorgeous books.
That's crazy.
So he's doing that. We have other art. We have another artist, Mark Secondwitz, who's doing more interior art for us. But yeah, and Mark did the cover for the Adventures hardcover book.
Okay, yeah, it looked familiar. I was.
Yeah, that's Mark Secondwitz. So those are the two artists. They're already on their way and working. So we're moving forward.
Nice. So how does this? What besides like the setting and everything is how different is this from Pendragon, like mechanics wise?
Mechanically, it is for the most part very similar.
Okay.
I've had the opportunity to read the book, and as an avid fan of Pendragon, obviously, when I was reading the draft and giving some notes back, I was very excited.
Sure.
There's some differences in they've changed a few of the traits, the dual personality traits Pendragon uses.
Okay.
They've adjusted some of those to fit the different time period and culture.
Okay. Yep.
They condense combat skills a little bit. So instead of like sword and great sword being separate skills, they'll just have sword, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they've done some of that. They've adjusted some of the details around achieving some of the higher honors of knighthood, becoming a chivalrous or spiritual or romantic knight. Those are a little harder to achieve in the game now.
Okay.
Then the big thing is they added attitudes. So in core Pendragon are how you feel about something, your strength of bond with that thing, right? Like my passion, family, my love, family passion is high. So I am a person who's devoted to my family. Attitudes are the inverse. They are how people or things feel about you.
Oh, okay.
So if you anger Charlemagne, he might get an attitude that says "hate Alan" at a certain rating, and that colors the NPC's behavior towards you. So these have been added for a bunch of things, and they play into some of the adventures. And if you can have organizations can have an attitude, an individual can, a whole culture could, all the Saxons could hate me.
Okay.
Right? If they see me, they want to kill me.
Sure. Okay.
Or they could like me, and they would go out of their way to help me if I'm stranded or something.
Nice.
So these attitudes really kind of give some good roleplay guides and help play into the adventures that are presented in the game.
Oh, nice. So it still has with Pendragon, you have like a legacy kind of, or like a
yes, it still has that.
Has that too. No, nice.
Yep.
Very cool. Let me refer to my notes a little bit. If anybody has any questions, feel free to put them in the comments, and I'll get to those as soon as we get a spot. So right now it is sitting at just a little over $45,000 funded.
Yes,
that is incredible. Did you have any idea? Did you have any inclination as to what the response to this this campaign, like going into it?
We knew it would fund,
right?
I mean, that was a given. Pendragon has a massive fan base.
Right.
And Greg Stafford, and Stuart both have large fans groups of fans who want to support them. Sure. And I contributed my small, minuscule contingent to the effort as much as possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Evidenced by the fact that our stretch goals only went up to 50,000 originally, I would say that it's kind of where we thought we were going to stop.
Nice.
So to be a week and a day in and staring down our last original stretch goal and having to scramble behind the scenes and talk about what are more stretch goals? What do we do? Do we do more stretch goals? It's a nice problem to have.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're too successful. What are we going to do?
Oh, geez, that's
It's but yeah, I think everybody's was pleasantly surprised, especially with the first couple days, how well it did.
I mean, because it funded in the first hour or so, right? It was crazy.
It was 2.5 hours or something. Yeah. It was really fast.
It was really, really quick, which is great. So then you've pretty much unlocked almost all of the scenarios, and now you've got a $55,000 stretch goal for a silk bookmark.
Yes, we'll add a silk like pull down bookmark that sits in the book, kind of start to deluxify the book.
Which actually, with a 700-page RPG,
you're gonna be glad you have it.
Yeah, I think that's probably.
Maybe we should add 3. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. That's what I was gonna get to. You should probably get a couple of them. Make more stretch goals, more bookmarks.
We'll just every 10,000 we'll add a new bookmark. It'll be great.
There you go. And then you've got for 60,000, you've got a print ready map PDF.
Yeah, so that was we had talked about maps in the book, and there's some gorgeous maps being made for the book. You can see one of the work in progresses on the Kickstarter.
Right, and that's kind of what I assumed that there was some sort of maps already. So to have one as a stretch goal kind of took me off guard.
Let me explain that. So these maps are printed in the book on pages, right? On a page, they'll say, "Look, map of Europe." But one of the things people kept asking for was bigger poster-size maps.
Well, we lost you on on video.
Hang on a second. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah, we just lost your video. Oh, there we go. Oh,
you got me back?
I think we got you back now.
Can you see me?
Yeah, we can see you.
Awesome. Perfect. So one of the things folks kept asking for was bigger poster maps. And doing poster maps is an interesting dilemma as an RPG company, at least in my experience, because you have 2 ways to do it. One is you fold it up and it comes inside the book.
Right.
And that works. And I have tons of those maps. I love them to death, but they are folded. And sometimes that can impact the quality of the map. The other option is you roll it up and you ship it in a separate rolled tube, which is very expensive to ship.
Absolutely.
Especially international. And so we kind of did the go around on that. And there was no way to do it as a reasonable stretch goal without forcing the backers to pay more for another physical add-on, right? And we did, and like international shipping on a 700-page RPG is already going to be a killer.
That's what I'm thinking. That's got to be crazy. Just shipping it in state is going to be crazy.
Adding a $15 shipping fee for a rolled poster map is not helping anybody's cause at that point, right?
Right. Just creating more work for you. That's it.
Right. So the idea was we're going to compile all the maps that are in the book into this super high resolution big PDF that you can take to a print shop and have them print you out a big sized.
Oh, okay. Map. That's pretty neat.
So it's kind of a middle ground. Like we'll put them into this PDF. You can go to your print shop and you can say, I need these 10 maps printed. I want them poster size. Then you can just do it yourself wherever you are. And that saves you on shipping. It saves us on adding an expensive physical component to a Kickstarter, and we don't want to overburden ourselves with extra pieces if we don't have to. And it really just it's a good middle ground for the map problem that we ran into midway.
Yeah, sure.
I think. I did that with I have a bunch of Pendragon maps that I've laminated for when I run Pendragon, and I took the map PDF to the store, said, load this on the computer. I need to print these. What's the biggest map size you have? Do that. Laminate them. Cost me $20. Done.
Nice.
I have 5 or 6 maps.
Sweet.
So yeah, that worked great.
Very cool. So do we want to talk? There's pretty much just 2 pledge levels for this campaign.
Yeah, part of the goal was, I'll explain why. And that might surprise people a little bit, but part of it was when Stuart passed, Steve Week, his brother, and myself are finishing all the existing Nocturnal projects that are outstanding.
Okay.
And there's a lot.
Sure.
I think I don't have. I mean, it's like there's like a dozen backer kits and Kickstarters to finish fulfilling.
Wow. Okay.
And we wanted to do this, but we also realized very quickly that we're just the 2 of us, and we Steve has his job and I have my job. And, we can only do so much in a day.
Right. And Steve does drive through RPG.
Right. Right. Steve runs drive through RPG, which is probably not a small job.
No, I don't think that's.
And so the 2 stretch goal level was really just an effort to say, these are the things. You have digital, you have physical.
Right.
That's it. Like, let's just keep it focused, keep it simple. It reduces complication later. It reduces, us juggling 1,000 things when we're trying to order these from the printer, stuff like that.
Yep. No, I think it was great. It's a good.
So we have the $15 PDF pledge.
Yep.
Which is you get the PDF of the core book plus all the stretch goals for $15.
Nice.
It's a pretty good deal.
Pretty much the whole game.
Everything that has been written to this point for the game is in that stretch goal.
For $15. I mean, that's $100 worth of print material. No, it doesn't have the.
No, it has it.
Does it have the scenario book too?
Yep, that's the stretch goals.
Holy crap!
It's all of it,
folks. That's crazy. That's a crazy value right there.
I like to think it's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, that's a really good deal.
And then there's the $60 pledge level, which is the physical book, and then all the PDFs.
Nice. So you get the whole game, but you get the core book. Right.
Yeah. And then for $40, you can add on the hardcover, full color copy of the adventure book.
Nice.
And that one, the page count's indeterminate until we unlock everything and we get all the art. Like that's going to be a little bit harder to lock down the page count for a while. Sure. But it's almost 100 pages in just adventures, and then there's maps and art, and the adventures still need more. Not all the adventures have finished being written fully. Like we're making edits and more notes, so it's going to grow a lot.
Nice.
And we're talking about some extra things we can slide in there to really amp up the value. I until it's decided, I can't say.
Oh, come on!
I would hate to tell somebody about something and then not do it.
No, I know. I totally get that. I'd rather rather surprise people than disappoint people.
Right. And that's $40, and then there's $5. You can get six-sided dice with the Paladin logo on the 6.
Nice.
And those are the mock-up, the digital mock-up of those is pictured on the campaign.
Now the only dice that you need for this system is D6s and a D20, correct?
And a D20. Yep.
Okay, but you're just doing D6s.
I can neither confirm nor deny that we are in conversations with dice manufacturers about the possibility of custom D20s for this campaign.
All right. I won't hold you to anything. I'm just saying.
Yeah. It's definitely something. It's definitely something we've talked about. We're looking into it, but we haven't.
It was one thing that was glaring at me when I was looking at the campaign. I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting that they just.
It's something we've talked about is finding the right manufacturer who meets our standards of quality, who isn't too expensive.
Right. Plus, it's hard to get a 20-sided die. There's this little tiny thing right there.
Right. It's not as simple as it sounds.
Right.
No, people always come to me and they say, "You make this. Why is this game so much? Why is this game so much?" I'm like, man, it's not as simple as you think. Like, you know what the most expensive part of a game is? It's not the pages inside the book.
Right.
That's the cheapest part, right? It's the cover art. Then it's printing. The cost of printing a cover for a book is almost as much as printing the inside of a book. Like,
oh, really? I didn't know that.
Well, it depends. Like, especially for hardcover, softcover, not the case at all.
Right.
Sure. But for a hardcover, like a nice full color, thick hardcover cover with a good binding, sewn binding, that's going to cost you as much as all the pages inside the book are going to cost to print.
Oh, wow.
So like when you add a new book or you add a third book to a campaign, like it's not a equal cost. It's like this, you start up here and then you're slowly going up, right? You don't start at zero.
Sure.
Like so it's a weird balancing act in a lot of ways. And the D20 is part of that balancing act. Like we have to go, how much does this cost? Do we have to pay for a mold? How much is the mold? How much are we selling these for? Are we going to sell these long term? How many are we ordering? At what point do we have to make a second mold because the first mold burned out? Like, what are all these pieces? And those are all the questions we have to ask. Sure.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I mean, there's enough D20s in this world that if you don't offer one,
I would
not going to be.
I mean, as a fan, I would love to get a Paladin and Pendragon D20 in my collection, right?
Sure.
So believe me, as the fan I'm saying, how can we make this work? Not why shouldn't we do this, but more, what do we have to get around so we can do this right?
Nice.
Believe me, I'm entirely coming at that from the conversation of I need to own that thing, so let's make it happen.
Very cool. So what are you most excited about this book? I mean, speaking as a big Pendragon fan.
Yeah, it's just,
and you kind of get to see how everything's getting, and you've already kind of got a good early image of what's in the book and everything. What are you really like? What are you geeked out about? What are you geeked up about?
I am most excited to play Pendragon from a different perspective.
Okay.
Like, I love Pendragon. I love the Great Pendragon campaign, but I mean, you're really locked into playing British Knights. Like, that is the thing you do, and
Sure.
I don't have a problem with that. But you know, seeing the rule set applied to a different nationality and perspective and viewpoint is really exciting for me, because I think the rule set is exceptionally versatile. So to watch somebody else come in and do something awesome with it, I'm really excited.
Now the person that did this, that wrote Paladin, have they put out any other games before? Or are they just they're just like a super huge fan of Pendragon, and so they just kind of,
you know, I honestly don't know.
Okay.
All I know is Ruben wrote this 700-page game, and it reads like somebody, you know, and it's been edited and stuff.
Right,
and
right.
He worked with Greg Stafford on it.
Oh, he did. Okay, okay.
Yeah. Greg Stafford was involved.
All right, all right.
But it reads like somebody's been doing this their whole life wrote.
Sure. Well, I mean, if it's 700 plus pages, I mean, you don't just sit down and do that in an afternoon.
No.
That's crazy. That's awesome. I mean, just from the amount of sheer work, you know, it's going to be awesome. It must be awesome to finally have that in your hands as a book when you've written 700 some odd pages and converted a game system like that.
Yeah, it's a masterpiece. I don't have a better word than masterpiece to describe the quality of work that Ruben turned out here.
Sure. Now, you said this has been in the works for years.
Yeah, for a while. Yeah.
Right. I mean, this is something that's been just a labor of love for Ruben. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I wanted to get him on here, but unfortunately he's traveling right now, so he doesn't have great internet.
Oh man.
You know, maybe if we get a chance and he gets home before the campaign ends, we can get him on here.
That would be awesome. So yeah, so are you? Do you have any inclination as to where this is going to end? Like, you must know. You don't know how many people are reminded because you always see an uptick at the 48-hour mark. You don't know how many people have clicked that 48-hour button.
Right. And, you know, and honestly, we haven't even emailed all our Drive-Thru RPG customers or anybody yet.
You haven't? Okay.
Spacing that out. We've done some, but we haven't hit them all.
Oh, okay.
And so we're kind of spacing that out to stretch out through the whole campaign.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Very cool. So, yeah, I'm trying to think of anything else that we can touch on before.
You know, it's a really great game, and one of my favorite parts is how focused the campaign is. Like, it's just tightly locked in on what it wants to do.
Yeah, if anybody really wants to, you know, just go right on this page. This page has a whole bunch of information on it, and it's like, oh wow, okay, this is, you know, you have two pledge levels. This is what it's all about. It's just,
you know, and one thing I would direct backers to is, and I need to update this to the front page, and I haven't done it, but I'm going to after we're done here. Actually, is update 8 has a chapter by chapter breakdown of what's in the game.
Okay.
Through all 19 chapters.
Oh my gosh.
And that one's open to that's a public one. Anybody can see that.
Okay.
And it that's written by Ruben. Like, that's pulled right from my edited manuscript and just copy and pasted in there with some minor tweaks, but for, you know, layout or whatever. But 19... I mean, that's text lifted right from the book.
19 chapters.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god, that's crazy.
And one thing, and this is probably my favorite thing about the game. Yeah. Inside the rules is there are lists of the magic weapons that Charlemagne and his paladins carried around. Normally in Pendragon, magic is sort of left to the purview of the GM. In Pendragon, in Paladin, Ruben's gone in and said, here are the stats for Charlemagne's magic sword of Joyeuse. Here is Roland's Durendel. Here's the magic weapons of the paladins, and their armors, and their magic horns, and their helms. And it's just it's not only a labor of love, but it's clearly written by somebody who is, if they're not, an expert through degree, they're clearly an expert in just study.
Right. Sure.
Like you can't write this stuff the way Ruben writes it and not be both passionate but also exceptionally knowledgeable.
That's what I kind of I was wondering, like, how he must have like a degree in like European history or something, something that just, I mean, because to have a 700 plus page book built in this era, it's got to be.
Yeah, he crushed it, and he goes into the detail of the game. Takes its perspective from the direction of the Franks, right? Like the game is written as playing up the value of the Franks and their culture and their religion over those of their enemies.
Right.
Because that's how the myths and the stories were written.
Right. Well, that's what. Yeah.
So he does a great job of getting into the chapter about other cultures, right, and portraying them while still dealing with them fairly and in a manner I found really appealing. It's not the all orcs are evil problem. There's actual nuance to the game. Despite the fact that you're looking at it from a single perspective for most of the game.
Now, I'm just looking over these chapters. The first chapter is just character creation. So, how hard is it to create you're well versed in how to create a Pendragon character.
It's
no if anybody that if it's no harder than Pendragon.
No, I mean, the first time we made Pendragon characters myself, we made them in 20 minutes. It's not a hard process.
Nice.
So, and Ruben did a great job of writing it in an accessible manner. I think folks will be pleased how easy it is.
Nice.
Wow. And then the second chapter, you get into some history stuff. Like, what are the events that your grandfather and father lived through? What have you inherited from them?
Right.
What was handed down to you? What is your family history? And Pendragon does that too. And Ruben's taken that idea and ran with it in Paladin. Because there's a lot of great history around Charlemagne's grandfather, Charles Martel. Who,
okay.
If you study European history, kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
And then Pepin the Short, his father. There's a lot that happens in those time frames anyway, and Ruben ties that in really nicely to the Charlemagne mythos in the game.
Nice.
And then chapters, 3 through 6 are the rules, right? Skills, traits, passions, attributes, glory, how to roll dice, what they mean, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Chapter 7 is your personal combat, sword fighting, hand to hand.
Right.
Chapter 8 is commanding troops in battles and sieges, skirmishes, etc. The more scoped out macro combats.
Okay. Yeah.
Chapter 9 deals with religion and magic, how prayers work, how sorcery works, stuff like that.
Okay.
How that impacts the world of Paladin, because part of the Charlemagne mythos was God loved Charlemagne, and that's why Charlemagne succeeded.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's dealt with in the magic of the world in a large aspect.
Okay.
People who love Charlemagne are loved by God because God loves Charlemagne, and so there's a benefit, towards stuff like that. So
okay.
And then chapter 10 is the winter phase, which if you played Pendragon,
similar to that, yeah.
That's where your character grow as they get more experience, stuff like that.
Right.
Chapter 11 deals with knights, what knighthood means at this time, what chivalry means at this time, all the pieces of being a knight, title standpoint.
Okay.
Chapter 12 is all about money and buying stuffs and magic items.
Nice.
And not in the D&D magic item sense, because magic items don't work like that. But this is a enchanted blade that's been handed down from grandfather to father to son, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Magic and items and treasure is legacy in this game. It's not something you pick up off an enemy you've slain in the field of battle. And then you've got chapter 13, which is all about the Franks and Frankland. where they live, Charlemagne society, how does the royal court work, what is the daily life like, religion, military structure, how long it takes to travel from one place to another, stuff like that.
Mm.
And then chapter 14 goes into specifically the terrain and land of Franklin, like where are the castles, where does Charlemagne live, yada yada yada. Where do your characters come from?
Nice. Okay.
And then chapter 15 is sort of what happens. There's all these Charlemagne stories and epics, but what happens in the future, right? Like, what will my characters do after character creation? Because you have the past, which is your grandfather and father's. You have his character creation and becoming it, and then the future. What are the adventures the GM is going to send me on? Right.
Okay.
And it's got a breakdown in a year-by-year format, similar to the Great Pendragon campaign. It's not quite the same. It doesn't have specific adventures for each year, but it is a chronological breakdown of the events of those years, so the GM can put you into adventures as they see fit.
Nice.
And then 16 is friends and enemies, other cultures, major NPCs, stuff like that.
Gotcha.
Chapter 17 is the world outside of Franklin. So if somebody's from Byzantine, what does that mean? If somebody is, from a Saxon, what does that mean? Stuff like that.
Okay, gotcha.
18 is animals, enemies, kind of a bestiary thing going on.
Oh, okay.
Includes fairies.
Oh, nice.
And then the last chapter is a bunch of adventures, an introductory scenario, and then a bunch of short scenarios, and another bigger scenario.
Nice. Wow. So
wow, it's packed.
Yeah. No, I'm just doing the math in my head, and like each chapter is going to be like, what was that? Like 40 pages.
They are quite large.
That's ridiculous. That's awesome. Oh, that's great. That's some really vital information there, though, for anybody that is interested in that type of game that isn't familiar with Pendragon at all. Because that's really neat.
I would say it's a great jumping point if you want to try Pendragon someday. Mm-hmm. But you look at all the books or whatever, and you're like, I don't know. Paladin's a great place to go because it's very self-contained.
Right. Doesn't have the years and years of
exactly.
Right. Nice.
Right.
Well, that's very, very cool, and I think for the money, you'd be hard pressed to find a better value for an RPG on Kickstarter right now. I think.
I would definitely agree, but I am mildly biased.
Yeah, you might be a little biased. That's all right. That's all good. So yeah, so this when's your expected completion date is next time sometime next year. If I'm
for delivery?
Yeah, for delivery. It's like April, somewhere around in there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's April right now because we're just printing and shipping the books.
Okay.
It's a pretty easy hit.
All right.
Basically, we're gonna, as soon as this campaign closes, we do one last editing pass. We start layout, and as the art rolls in, we slot that into the books.
Mm-hmm.
And then we print and deliver.
Nice.
So it will hopefully be relatively painless. Now that I've said that, something is going to go horribly.
No, let's hope not. Let's hope not. And all the digital stuff is going to go through DriveThru RPG. Plug them again one more time.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it's a convenient way to do it.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. So I'm really looking forward to it. And like I said, I've been watching it since it launched, and you kind of gave me a heads up that it was coming to Kickstarter. And when I looked at it, I was like, holy smoke, this is crazy. And I was just so pumped to see it just like take off like the first couple hours.
Yeah, it's really nice to see it do well.
And you're averaging thousands of almost a couple $3,000 a day. Right?
Yeah, we're doing
close.
We're 8 days in, so a little over 5,000 a day.
Yeah. That'll taper off a little bit, but it doesn't seem to be slowing down hardly at all since the launch. So
Yeah,
that's
no, it's been going strong, and we're really happy.
yeah. Anything else you want to talk about while we're talking about Paladin?
No, that was a fairly thorough conversation.
Wow, I figured, like I told you, I told my wife asked me how long I was gonna be before before I came on, and I said, well, Alan, he likes to ramble.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This guy right here. I'm usually the one to blame.
That's what they say. No. That Alan dude, he'll talk forever about Pendragon stuff if you let him.
Oh, it's all good. It's all good. How are I've got you on. Well,
Please.
how about your other projects that you've got a couple other projects that.
Yeah, so we're finishing a bunch of Nocturnal projects.
Right.
The ones for me that are outstanding are Cold Shadows, which is trucking along. I shared some of the previews of some of the components that came yesterday.
Saw that. You had the new tokens came in.
Yep, they look great, and I had a couple of them. I bounced them around. They look awesome. And then Moods of the Mad King, which is we're just waiting for the artist to finish, and then we'll print and ship. So.
Sweet.
Yep.
Now, can you talk about any of the other Nocturnal campaigns that you're working on trying to get, settled up?
Finished?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a few, and part of the it's hard to talk about them because part of them we're still like figuring out all the various pieces.
Okay.
Like it seems like every week somebody comes out and says, "Oh, hey, I was doing this stretch goal or something," and we're like, "Oh, it's not on the list. Let's add it to the list. Figure out, have you been paid? How much were you promised?"
Right.
And there's and it's not negative. It's sad, and it's definitely not work I ever wanted to be doing.
Right. No, and I think people are understanding like this isn't typical of how Nocturnal does things, but people understand that life happens.
Yeah, there's a few. We're just trying to finish them off. The big one is Prince Valiant.
Okay. Yep.
And then Talislanta, which is only funded in May, I think.
Right. Yeah. We backed that, so that was.
Yeah, that's a big one. There's several. Aquilare. There's some Innocence the physicals have to go. There's a lot. I mean, there's.
Yeah.
It is overwhelming to the organized project manager that I am to suddenly turn around and drown.
No. Hey,
you get up and you push forward, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You get up, and you know what? I think Stuart chose you for a reason, and he knew that if anybody could do it, it would be you. And he knows that you're a hardworking guy, and that you're very dedicated to putting out good products. And so I think it's fitting. So it's good that you were there and you were able to kind of step in.
Yeah. Well, thank you for the compliment.
Yeah.
And I will say Steve Week has been just exceptionally I don't know what the word I'm looking for, a rock stability, like
supportive. And
yeah, well, and he's willing to get into the details and work, which is great because he's down there with me, like, all right, let's go through all these projects piece by piece, what's been paid. It's not just me slaving away on a spreadsheet. He's in there with me every day trying to figure it out. So
nice. Oh, well, I wish you the best of luck, and I've said this right along that this is just a minor bump in the road, and we know that you'll get everything all straightened out, and you'll just continue to keep churning out success after success.
Well, definitely, and Paladin it's it's great to see Paladin doing so well because it really stands as a testament to Stuart.
Absolutely.
He tapped into what people wanted. He knew what people were looking for.
Sure.
Be that stories about heroes or sometimes monsters who become heroes or what have you. He knew what he was selling because it resonated with that part of the audience really well. So yeah, I'm just glad that we're able to finish some small piece of that dream for him.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I guess on that note, we'll call it a night. It's kind of early for us, but we'll.
Well,
I appreciate you coming on and talking about it. And
it's I'll see what we can do to get Ruben on with you guys. So he has a chance to really talk to you about it too.
Yeah, because I think that's a really underrated part of RPG books is the art. We always talk about the game designers. We always talk about the publishers. We don't. Artists don't really get a whole lot of credit and everything. And of course, he's not, of course, an artist, but he's the writer. But I think somebody that writes and does art, that they're kind of
as a person who writes for RPGs, I feel like we qualify as artists. I'm just going to put that line in those hands.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
But yeah, I'd love to get Ruben on, so I'll see what I can do.
Yeah, let's see if we can't have him on. Oh man! All right. Well, I guess that's gonna do it for me.
All right. I think I'm good.
All right. These are always so awkward to close out. I don't know why tonight's
I'll be at Gen Con.
Any different. Very good.
So
that would be great. If any
about Paladin at Gen Con, I will be at the Nocturnal Media booth part of the time. Part of the time I will be running games, and part of the time I'll be at the Hypernode Media booth. So
nice.
You can find me at any of those places. If you can't find me, somebody will probably know how to reach me.
Yeah. You can also find you on Twitter at Alan Bahr.
Yep, ALANBAHR or alanbahr.net.
Which is your personal.
That's my personal
website. That you get to get the inside track on Alan's mind because he likes to post lots of things that's going on.
Yeah, sort of my just thought brain dumping.
It's all right. It's all right. We all have those. I have it on Facebook. If anybody's interested in following.
So much on Facebook with the brain dumpings there, Doug.
Yeah, I know. I dump a lot of things that just kind of pop up. It's not always RPG related. It's not always board game related. It's like, hey, look at this new trailer that just came. That I want to go see this. But when you're a 40-year-old dad, you're into a lot of geeky things, and so I like to have people that come talk to me about that stuff, just like you do too. I know you do.
I'm sure. Yeah.
It's fun to find folks that are into the same things that you are. So entirely. I just like to post all sorts of stupid things. All right. Well, I guess that's going to do it for us tonight. Thank you guys, folks, for tuning in. Check out Alan at Gen Con, or you might see him on this channel before then or after then, or on Twitter. Anywhere you can. And my name's Doug. This has been Victory Condition Gaming, because winning shouldn't be the only victory condition when you get to the table. Go back, Paladin. We'll see y'all in the next video.